Hey everyone, you're in track 3, so if that's not where you meant to be, that's where you are. We are now going to hear Harlequin talk to us about when AI meets cybersecurity challenges and strategies for professionals.
Thanks, everybody. We're ready to dive into statistical. I can't speak today. We're going to talk about AI and how it affects us. Before I start talking about AI, you should know who I am. My name, Harlequin. I got a legal name, but you guys call me Harlequin. I've been in various positions. I like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, master of absolutely nothing, but it's fun. I've worked, started in the NOC, which is, for those of you that don't know, it's a SOC without the security aspect of it. Currently, I serve as a customer advisor or cybersecurity advisor for Rapid7, specializing in vulnerability management and the Inside VM tool. I also serve on the board of EdSec, which is a nonprofit dedicated to helping veterans get into cybersecurity. And I touch grass by taking photos of things. So why are we talking about artificial intelligence? Well, that's a good question, and I'm glad you guys asked that. So in my work, in my capacity as an advisor, I talk with customers of all sizes, shapes, industries, all under different regulatory requirements and challenges and all the good stuff there. So I get to see the fun stuff. If anybody here, you don't have to raise your hand, but just, think to yourselves Log4j and the great joy that it brought every single one of us. So I got to see that happen, from the initial impact, the whispers, to the, oh no, what's going on, to the help me, to the I'm staying up at 3 a.m. doing scans for people that are concerned. So essentially, that's what I do. And because of that, I'm able to see not just Log4j, but all other things that happen, right? The whispers in the wind. So, like many of you, I was there. I was there 3,000 years ago. But I was, like most of you, we were all there for the rise of AI, right? And when I talk about AI, I'm not talking about the stuff from 10 years ago, the crappy bots and stuff like that. I'm talking about the new stuff, the new age, the Sam Altman coming into existence and stuff like that. So I got to see it go from this is a neat thing to our shareholders demand we use it, right? But no one is talking about the impacts, right? We're also busy in seeing how we can integrate it, how we can make our lives better, easier, faster, stronger, how we can make my house a smart house, how we can make my Salesforce a smart Salesforce, right? But no one is talking about the impacts, the downsides that come with it. And so that's what I'm here to talk about, because we're all vulnerable to its impacts. So to make things easier, for the duration of this talk, when I say AI, I really do mean AI solutions, AI workflows, AI processes, AI everything. You can call it however you want, Gen AI, good AI, bad AI, scam AI, but Merriam-Webster defines it as the capability of computer systems or algorithms to imitate intelligent human behavior. In other words, it's supposed to mimic human intelligence. At a broad sense, you give it a question, it does its magic, and then it gives you an output. So, but keep in mind that machine learning is a component of it, and data sets are also another component of AI. I'm not here to talk about those. Right? I just want to talk about the holistic effects that AI brings to us, not the individual parts. So the question that I want to ask every single one of you, and those of you watching at home, is what am I giving up using this? Right? The question, it's not going to have a simple answer. Right? Depending on our skill levels, experiences, and usage, this is going to be a tailored answer for all of us. But what I can tell you is that long-time usage, right, using it over just not months, but maybe years, maybe even decades, if need be, will introduce misinformation, and biases into your thinking. It's going to create an over-reliance on AI for tasks, for critical and general. And you're also it's gonna bring ethical challenges for not just you, but your team and your leadership, or if you run a company, it's gonna bring challenges for your company. But let's dive into the misinformation component first. So AI models are built on large data sets. This data isn't vetted for accuracy in any way, shape, or form, right? It's one of the core issues that you see online today is how does it get its information? So essentially, at a broad scope, you ask it a question. It uses machine learning algorithm to go through all of its data that it collected, and then it gives you an answer based on that data. So good exercise is if you go to your favorite AI and you ask it 50 times, what color is the sky? It's going to say blue, but on occasion it might say red. It might say something else. And it doesn't really matter what the answer is because it's going to present it to you as if it's real, right? The sky is red. That's easy to tell if you've been outside. Same as for you cybersecurity professionals, easy to tell when it's something in your domain, you ask it a question and it gives you an answer, but you kind of know what it is, or at least the right path. What happens if you don't? What happens if you're new, right? So regardless of the experience or the knowledge, one thing unites us all as experts though. We all know how to Google. We all know how to use the internet super well. That's what you guys are all experts in that right here. But as you guys have noticed with the AI integration, it's everywhere. It's in everything. It's in every product. It's in Google. Essentially one of the outcomes is that you're wasting more time, right? If you have a team that is new or dependent on certain information and they rely on the internet, like we all do, you're gonna be wasting your time just vetting the information, right? And like I said, it's coming in everything. So something that you may or may not know is that Google wants to start introducing AI in journalism, to create headlines for you guys, to create the bodies of stories, to make it easier for journalists to just pump out content. And that is the danger, right? Because we all get our information from the news, or that's also how we propagate, right? Log4j came about because of news articles and because people going on forums and starting posting about like, oh God, this is dangerous. Somebody talk about this. And essentially is a nutshell, right? And the bottom quote here is sort of the crux, the key point that I want to make, right? The danger of the misinformation in and of itself isn't it's the slowness of it, right? The slow accumulation of it. The you get used to it. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't touch it, then you start touching a little bit, and eventually you start going down this rabbit hole where you need it. The second point that comes with that, right, and I do want to emphasize that all of this builds on top of it, right? That's why I'm going in this order, because the misinformation leads to wasted time and it leads to over-reliance. So the topic is a lot easier to explain if we talk about the impacts of it. There's a paper from Brook and McNamara that asks a question. Does using artificial intelligence assistance accelerate skill decay and hinder skill development without the performer's awareness? So in other words, does using AI impact you without you realizing it, and especially for newcomers, right? New people to this industry. The conclusion was that, yeah, they improve efficiency, they make you faster, but they also do contribute to that skill decay. And it does impact newcomers, right? If you're new to this field and you're not well versed, you're not well experienced, you start to depend more on it as you use it more, right? Kind of this really bad cycle as it goes. But every paper that I've read has kind of said the same thing. The technology is too new, so we don't really know the impact just yet. So everything that I'm reading to you here, everything that all my resources and everything kind of reiterates the same point, right? It's too new. We got to know more about it. So recently, and I say recently as about a week ago at the time you're hearing this, Microsoft put out a paper. It asked 319, or around 300 folks of Microsoft, high-level folks, right? We're talking senior architects, principal engineers, and the like. And they were asked, does using AI help you or hinder you? And a lot of them found that it does impact your problem solving skills the more you use it, right? And there is one thing that is evident, another point that I would really like to reiterate to you guys here, which is that AI is a tool, just like anything else, right? Lockpicks, your flipper zeros, your bash bunnies, it's a tool. The studies found that the more confident you are in yourself, in your skills, in your problem solving abilities, the more you're going to use AI like a tool. But the reverse is also true. The less you're confident in your skills, the less you're new to this industry, the more blindly you're going to use AI. The easier it's going to be to just start telling it what to do. So the portion that I talked about was general skills, but cognitive offloading, there's a paper by Michael Gerlich at the SBS, Swiss Business Institute, talks about the cognitive offloading, right? It's when you make AI, and a lot of these tools, hence why I want to talk about this, a lot of these tools kind of do this for you, right? Don't worry about taking notes. I got you. I'll take the notes for you. Don't worry about creating this excessive workflow. I'll take care of it, right? You're depending on AI without realizing it because you're making it do the tasks that you don't want to do, right? The hard stuff. So you can focus on the easier stuff and make it easier, right? Which is fantastic. We've done that all throughout our lives, right? Think of agriculture, how we went from knowing how to farm to letting machines do it for us, right? Or knowing plant quality to just, again, letting the technology get caught up and do all that. But the danger is in that, right? Because in this field, you have to stay on top of things. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to be able to adapt, but you can't really adapt if you are if you've offloaded your skills, right? General skills are easy to get used to. You can stop using AI and relearn all those critical skills, or general skills, I should say. But what about critical skills, right? How many of you here are master programmers? How many of you here are experts in your field, right? How many of you get called to conferences to speak about a topic that no one really talks about? Imagine if you had to start over again, right? Would suck. The training, the time you spent honed in your cybersecurity lab at home in your 20s is not a fun experience when you have to repeat it in your 40s, right? So, last part here is just about the diminished skills, kind of what I was going about, right? The CCerts, the SOC analysts, the incident response folks, right? The overall impact that leads to this is over time, diminished skills lead to diminished alerts, right? Especially in cybersecurity, where these topics are not one-offs. They're not textbooks. Some of them are repeated, right? There was another talk here at CactusCon that talked about the AI usage for ransomware campaigns, phishing emails. I know my job at Rapid7, we're one of the experts of AI. We've been using it since the inception of the company. Our pen testers use AI, right? So that's kind of the downside, right? You use AI to make your life easier, while the bad guys use AI to make their lives easier. And if you can't stay on top of it, then obviously they're going to win. Things are going to fall through the cracks, severe consequences, layoffs, firings, suings, you name it. It's all there. So the other point that I want to make, and think about how it all stacks up, is the ethical challenges, right? So it's kind of a broad word, but let's dive into the first portion, which is the lack of transparency. A lot of data, or there's a lot of data that is missing, that is not sure of, right? So another paper that I encourage you guys to read or skim it if you can is called "We Must Fix the Lack of Transparency Around the Data Used to Train Foundational Models." It argues the same point that you've seen in the news. The data that these AI systems are being trained on is opaque. It's not clear. It's you're being fear-mongered, right? You got Sam Altman going to Congress telling them that no, you absolutely cannot know what I trained this data on because it's secret. It's going to put us at risk. America is going to come under attack. But when we hide the development, we really hurt ourselves even more. So even when you get the model weights, even when you get the data sets that they give you, it's refined, right? Look at Llama, look at DeepSeek. It's all refined data. But if you kind of knew what it was trained on, you could be like, whoa, hold on. That's like, why is my AI, why does it know how to make meth? Because then it's going to tell me how to make meth. Speaking of meth, AI can't be sued. So guess who's getting the lawsuit? So users are responsible for verifying the accuracy, safety, and potential biases of the outputs of AI, right? Because it can't be sued. So the blame has to fall somewhere. And if it falls on us, well, then just more of an argument to talk about it, right? So in 2023, there was a lawsuit. The lawyers on one side were tasked with supplying evidence to the lawyers on the opposite side, the opposing counsel, citing specific examples. So they used case numbers. So they sent over the case numbers to the opposing counsel. Opposing counsel then looked at it, tried to get the information, go through it, and they found that all of it was made up. So they reached back out and they said, hey, why is this data made up? Can you explain it, right? So when they got caught, the lawyers said, and I quote, our internal artificial intelligence platform hallucinated the cases in question while assisting our attorney in drafting the motion in Lamine. So, to recap, a lawyer without the required experience was not able to verify the information given to this person by the AI, did not check the bias, did not check any of the accuracy, and ultimately allowed the mistake to escape out into the real world and hurt not only their reputation and their work, but the company's reputation too. A paper on emerge.digital kind of reiterates the other point, right? AI accountability is everyone's responsibility. We all have a duty to make sure that the information is accurate and safe, right? And if not because of your own moral code, it's because you're going to get sued. Because no one knows how decisions are made. AI is a black box. If you knew how it was made, you could apply forensics to it. You could, replicate it many times over. But what if you're not, one of us in the trenches? What if you're a CISO? What if you're a content writer? What if you're someone out there creating stuff, right? You see how this can create mistakes, right? Again, we talk about that stacking effect, right? You're new to the field. You're a new firewall engineer. You're new to the CISO role. You're new to content creation. You start to rely on AI more and more, and eventually you're creating papers. But again, so let's kind of focus it in here, right? I listed off a lot of titles that don't really apply to us here. So you're a firewall engineer, you're new to the company, you're new to the industry, you're new to just being a firewall engineer. You look at AI and you say, hey, AI, because I've seen this happen before with regex inputs where people say, hey, ChatGPT, give me a regex input, right? So you're a firewall engineer, you ask AI, hey, give me a firewall rule, right, for ingress authentication detection rules. So it gives you one, you implement it because you're not sure of everything. So you're over relying on it. You're letting the information kind of guide you, even though if it's not correct because you don't know how to check it, you can't check it. And eventually you've exposed the environment to the internet, right? We've all done that. At least I hope so. Not just me, but we've all done that. And, but this time you do it without the learning aspect of it, right? And so that's sort of where the danger is. But I've kind of, well, hopefully I haven't been too negative, right? If you've noticed the way that I spoke and the topics that I brought up, it hasn't been about AI is bad, avoid AI, let's ditch it, let's go back to telegrams, let's go back to smoke signals, let's all go back to tunneling underneath and sending messages. It's more about the understanding the impact of it, right? How do we use it while understanding the downsides of it? And the best way is the same thing that's sort of driving us apart, right? The way to combat AI is together, to build a community. So all of you are change makers, every single one of you. Does your organization have AI policies? Is a good question to ask yourselves, right? Is there rules governing the usage of it? Or are we just playing the honor system and hopefully we don't get sued? And if you don't, then talk to either maybe your director, maybe that's you, or maybe you're just in an industry that's not cybersecurity related, but it's adjacent, right? Maybe you're in HR, right? Talk to your organization and be like, how do we get an AI management framework? NIST has a really good one. I've linked it here below, but that's a really good place to get started because that's step one, right? The paper that I talked about earlier from Microsoft also had a really good solution, which is to redesign how AI is used. So instead of going from making the workflows and I'll title it, right? Flip it. I'll make the workflows, you title it, right? By redesigning how it works, from making it go from a doing everything and I'll just be the backup, you allow yourself to think critically, right? You're giving yourself time and space to learn those foundational skills, to really cement them. You're detecting biases because you're doing all the hard work, and instead of merely assisting. And you also know the telltale signs of AI garbage. So go further together. All right. Last part here is encourage team building activities. Create and foster a collaborative environment, right? I attended a talk earlier that said, go meet somebody here, right? Learn by working in an environment that everyone is working together. You get to cement your skills, ask each other questions, check each other for, biases. Is this wrong? Is this the wrong? Am I making the wrong point? Am I saying the wrong thing? Do I even make sense? Right? I would much rather ask a coworker for help than to rely on AI. And in many situations, you're kind of relying on AI because you're a team of one, or your team all hates each other, right? So be the change you want to be and change that, right? Implement team building activities, right? Go to an escape room and fight each other for escape. And if you feel that that's not enough, if you feel that maybe you could do more, then be a mentor or get a mentee, right? Myself am a product of my community, right? I have had mentors, I've had jobs that I got because I networked. And so that's a really good way to combat AI, even if the industry is actively trying to push out newcomers, right? I don't need a junior analyst because AI can do it for me. And that's really not the way it should be, right? AI should assist the junior analysts, not replace them. And if all that, right, if you've already made your place of business the best collaborative environment it could be, and you've already been a mentor to 600 people, and you really want to do more, join a community, right? We have a lot of wonderful communities here, right? Our amazing friends over at DC480, the Phoenix 2600 group, the Cloud Security Alliance, and of course, you guys here as CactusCon. So earlier I asked you, what am I giving up by using this? So I want you all to reflect on that question. But if you have time, I'll take your questions. Thank you. Yes.
Issue cited, our lawyers immediately developed their AI policy for the attorney system.
Mm.
Lawyers can lead the way.
Yes, they should. Everybody should be leading the way in however they can. I've advised on situations where the policy was just, well, it's an honor system. Don't put any PII. I trust you. And convincing them took a challenge because not everyone likes to enforce. All right. Anybody else? Questions? Oh, fantastic.